Our first research was we saw all the old pictures of the Weber, and it was just grand. And it was a grand building. It was the first building to have heating and air conditioning, central air, that kind of thing. And this used to have like literally Hollywood premiere style openings for movies and events and stuff. And you know, we talked to people in the neighborhood that remembered the way back when, and we saved as much as we could, and that was my kind of motto from the beginning: save as much as we can.
One of the things I love about this building is that it's actually a whole 100 years old. 1917, the Weber Theater showed its first movie, and it started kind of out as this kind of grand dame of a building. This was a place that was naturally meant to congregate and have a good time. We were driving around, you know, and he said, "I love this neighborhood, that building, something needs to be done to it. It's too cool of a building, it's too cool of a neighborhood." And having a building that was in the 1920s era component to it, just, I think it spoke to his soul, quite frankly.
For as funny as it sounds, or as cliche as it sounds, you know, this spot was kind of calling for me. When I first got to Denver, I was down here hanging out, you know, good food, up and coming food places, up and coming drink establishments and whatnot. Just was a big chunk of a building just sitting here, and like I said, it sort of called to me, and I was like, something really cool's got to go here. And the concept kind of was in the back of my mind, and meeting Wade, who was a brilliant, successful, you know, businessman, and he said, you know, hardcore, you have to develop a correct business plan and a whole model, and, you know, spell it out for you, not just now, years to come. And the more we kind of planned it out, the more it kind of made more sense, and the more it was kind of rolling through. And
until we bought it, I think it had been abandoned for about 7, 8, maybe even 10 years. There was fire, there were some floods, there was just a whole bunch of abandonment. You know, and so it had been this real derelict of a building.
But yeah, the bones were here, and we were able to save as much as we could. And so there wasn't much to save, but the building itself, and that's what we're really kind of going to concentrate on. So what you see in here is literally what was originally built.
Even in whatever incarnation it was a landmark, you know, and there was kind of something that had a gravity towards it. I would totally say that the building itself is something that people know. And, you know, it would have been a shame if it went away. It would have been a shame if we lost literally 100 years of a building and a gathering place.
Would it have been overall cheaper to knock it down? Yeah, but that's kind of what everybody's doing, and that's what I didn't want to do. And I think history has its place. As you know, if you put a little polish on history, there's nothing wrong with that.
We still think that there's some validity to the building. We still think that there's something to be done with it. You know, the handlers who owned it actually had always said that they wanted to keep the building. You know, they had that history to it, even from when it was the Weber. It might not be the easiest thing to do, but, you know, I think it was the right thing to do.
But we wanted to bring it back to the original glory, and the building was sound enough and structural enough that we were able to keep what we were able to keep, and that's really all we wanted, and really there was nothing else in here.
When you see a shell of a building that just hasn't seen a lot of dedication and love in TLC to manage it, you run through not just the normal renovation processes, but you also run through literally decades of either deferred maintenance or the hard times of, you know, of the past century are kind of written on the bricks, you know, which we had to clean up.
The choice of machinery really was efficiency for what we needed to do now, but also to grow on as well. And we chose one of the oldest and best still making companies in the country, 150 years young, but out of Kentucky. You know, the great grandsons of the grandsons of the originator were still running the company, so they sure as hell know what they're doing.
Well, it was an exciting day, first of all, that we've been looking at the calendar, that date, for quite a while. And they showed up on a long 53-foot flatbed trailer, all tarped off and chained down. Just seeing them arrive, didn't even see the stills. They were under the tarp, and you still get excited and can't wait.
There's a lot of great stuff out there, but this company, we're just ready to go, and they know what they're doing, and with their suggestion and my input, you see what you see, and that they've been kicking butt pretty good so far.
I think, you know, when we look at what Archetype is doing in the building, one of the core components there obviously is going to be a safety, health, and environmental sustainability component to it. And I think that's born out of all of our backgrounds. You know, Michael, coming from a healthcare provider point of view, he does care quite a bit about health and safety components. You know, I mean, that's just part of the dynamic of who he is as a protector kind of guy.
Well, the main concentration was definitely first off the walls. We had to make sure that they were sound and straight. For the distillery area, obviously we have to take in consideration that there are volatile materials that are being processed there for periods of time. So as much as code as we can get it, as much as we could follow what we needed to follow, as far as safety regulations and building regulations, we went by the book because that's how we wanted to do it, and that's how you should do it.
A healthy, safe environment is what makes people feel comfortable, and people do their best work when they're comfortable and when they're safe. You know, and a lot of people use the term romantic, you know, of going back and taking an old building, and it's romantic to use that. But we think that there's a lot more of the respect to that. We want to make sure people still feel like it's their neighborhood. You know, and you see a lot of these great restaurants and great bars that kind of span the whole demographic region. And I think that it's this neat neighborhood that accepts everybody for who they are. It's very much a come-as-you-are neighborhood.
And that's what kind of this neighborhood represents to me. It allows you to have the history, but it has cool new stuff. It has the nitty-gritty, but nothing wrong with a little polish, you know, here and there. And that's what I wanted to give it a little bit. I want it to be a nice place to go. You know, you bring your dates, you bring your friends, you bring an event. You know, that's where you come here to be respectfully entertained.
You know, we want to be a very well-defined Colorado, Denver proud spirit, but we also want to make people feel like this is something that is a world-class experience, and Baker's the right place to do it. I think it's going to be super cool to see how that neighborhood continues to develop, and we just hope we can be, you know, a good part of it.
I always like to say it's in the blood. When my family first came over, when we first immigrated to America, as I'm third generation American, well, you take what you learn from the old world, and what they learned in the old world was making booze. So that's why I say it's been in the blood. We made the best drinks. This is how it went.
Well, what seems to be commonplace is using grains. You take a fruit, you're going to have a totally different flavor profile than you would with the grain. So that was what he pictured early on as a grape distillate to take on the flavor profile and characteristics of a different kind of vodka.
Everything is on site, so the distilling process literally is the juice comes in, the fancy way to say it is saignée, and it's basically fresh pressed grape juice. We have in our fermenters, we reconstitute it into correct levels. We have our yeast, which we've been working with experts on what type works best for us. A little bit of nutrients. That sits for a few days. Let the sugars be created by the lovely little beast of yeast.
at which point we put it through multiple distillations and end up with our vodka base, which we can then keep as the vodka or redistill it again. We use our 4-plate still for stripping runs, and that's also our gin still.
Our gin still is a customized glass gin basket that's vapor infused as a one-shot style.
We use botanicals that range from juniper, cassia bark, and also some teas.
Then it's collected, and then we get our gin out of that guy. And then we have our vodka still that, again, the 16 plates helps us clarify that to almost as our perfection standards are. Collect that as well, and that's what we end up bottling. The bottling is done on site as well. Everything's done on site. We use Rocky Mountain spring water for our cutting, but we have a full bottling section on site, so we fill, cap, and seal it up. And our manpower puts it in, and Ryan puts it in the cases, and we get it out to the people.
One of the things that we want to make sure we do with all of our products, the Archangel vodka, the ARCHRIVAL gin, is that we want to make sure people know what they're drinking. We think that elevates their experience. We think that they come back more as well. When you know why the spirit tastes the way it does, when you know why you like it versus something else, I think it increases your enjoyment of the product, which is really what we care about.
Archangel vodka was something that I wanted to be clear, clean, with a little bit of character though. I just wanted something that was a little more mellow, a little more kind of pleasing to the overall palate. So you have a good start, middle, and finish. I wanted something that would stand alone, but you weren't afraid to put it in your favorite drink either. So the ARCHRIVAL gin is just taking a nod to the traditional, but we wanted to take a tried and true recipe and tweak it a little bit. So we've added a couple things like teas, a couple different teas that we put in. And again, something that you can sip on its own. It's lovely on its own, but it's also able to go into mixtures that sometimes you wouldn't even think of. But we wanted to establish it as a true spirit of choice.
But I think with hard work and perfecting the craft and continuing to be creative and do what we do, I think we'll hopefully be able to create a nice niche for ourselves and maybe gain some recognition on the gin and the vodka, which will then allow us to branch out into other spirits, which will be exciting and a big time for Archetype.
We've got a great colleague of ours, who's a British mixologist, and he's, when you meet him, you'll know it. I mean, it's almost not doing him justice to explain him on his behalf. You kind of have, he's a force of nature. You have to meet him. So come into the building, and take a class from Simon.
Simon, he's awesome. He's crazy, but what a talent behind the bar. He is able to whip up stuff that you wouldn't think of, change things that you would think were too traditional to change, and coming out with something delicious and fresh and amazing.
Simon is a mad scientist. He's amazing to be around. Got brilliant ideas running through his head all day long. Yeah, he's a tremendous guy to have up front.
A whiz behind with the education as well. He's a whiz with just knowledge of drink culture and cocktail culture.
And you'll really be able to fully appreciate the history of that cocktail and how to drink it and how to appreciate all of the complexity of these what most people consider simple, clear spirits.
We wanted to create something a little more elevated for Denver. The overall experience is definitely one for the sights, the sounds, the smells, and the taste, obviously. We have everything to entice your senses so that you have a pleasurable experience with a little bit of education as well.
This was a place that was naturally meant to congregate and have a good time. What we're really lucky about being able to have in this building is not just a distillery and a tasting room, but we've got some other dedicated spaces that can be multi-use and multifunctional for a whole host of people coming in for a number of different events or experiences.
So the event space, we do have one located on lower floor and upper floor. Lower floor can be combined with our host gallery, which we will be using for educational classes, art installations, trunks and demo shows, which is lends to the opening of the wall to make the larger space. The upstairs space is going to be used for different styles of receptions, parties, small business meetings to larger multimedia presentations, larger events, larger parties. Well, we wanted to make our event space versatile for all types of events. Everything from music, art, fashion, kind of run the board of what can come in here, kind of what Denver really is growing into.
The concept of Archetype, the Archangel vodka, the ARCHRIVAL gin, we give these nods back in the distilling effort to the origination of the distilling process anyway. So doing something brand new wasn't the easiest thing to do, but by God, it's been fun. I really enjoy it. It's
worked well. I've been really happy about what came out, and from the get-go, this was the plan. And it sounds very simplistic, and God, it wasn't. But this was the plan from the beginning. It was meant to look like it does, and thank God I had brilliant people behind me and supporting me that allowed it all to come to fruition.
It was amazing. The place is fantastic. I knew a little early on what his vision was, but that still really doesn't prepare you for when this place is done. And just to be able to work here, just be able to come here and call this my job. The place is fantastic. They did an amazing job on it.
When you walk inside of that building, you get to see the history of that building in the brick. You get to see the future of the building in the stills and in the windows, and what we've been able to do with it. I think breathing new life into this thing has given everybody just a real exciting feel for making this project.
So it's funny, people ask me, if I'm anxious, if I'm nervous, if I'm really excited, whatnot, and I was like, yes, I'm all those things, but as crazy as it sounds, I feel like this was supposed to be here. I feel like this is exactly what was supposed to be here, and it turned out the way it was because that's what it was supposed to do. I wanted to be able to incorporate the community. I wanted to incorporate kind of the spirit of Denver itself, spirit of Colorado.
So we want to elevate the community. We want to raise Denver spirits in a healthy, safe way. And we want to do it in a way that actually allows the building to exist for another 100 years.
And our mission really from start to finish was always to raise Denver spirits one drink at a time.